Hello, and welcome to another episode of the ohmTown Daily News Show. I'm Mayor Watt. That's my site. I'm going to get right into this. Maybe we can pare this down to less than an hour. I'll be surprised because I can kind of fall off the rails and wander off into the bush and just talk about random things. It's kind of my nature. That said, ohmTown is a news aggregator. Go to ohmTown.com. You'll see what it's all about. Everything gets funneled into 6 main categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. And then from there, it gets filtered into 50 different shows that I intend to bring to Twitch. And after Twitch, they get parsed out to YouTube and to Apple iTunes podcasts. So that's the intent. The only show that's live right now is the ODNS, which is this show. And it runs for about an hour. We'll see. Sometimes I run long. Like I said. Kind of like this. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of dead air. I don't edit the show for YouTube or for the podcast or for you. I don't even prep. I grab a bunch of headlines and that's it. Things that I think are interesting. Things that I think you might be interested in. Yeah, sometimes it involves politics, but you can't get away from it. You might as well become at least a little bit aware of what's going on. And if you're already aware of it, then this shouldn't even bother you. It's nothing. So the first article, sorry, got distracted. See what happens? A little mote of dust flew by my peripheral vision and it pulled me away. First article on the list is in the Mobile Channel. And hundreds of planes are stranded in Russia and they may never be recovered. Western companies that own the planes face little prospect of getting them back, meaning billions of dollars in losses. So if you haven't heard, Putin is basically saying that he will nationalize the assets that any company that leaves Russia. So if a company leaves Russia during this conflict, as punishment for obeying sanctions, or I don't know, ethics, morals, sympathy, empathy, compassion, all kinds of stuff, right? Being a human being, if you decide to leave and you leave anything of value there, it's going to get nationalized. That was the claim day before. Here, the New York Times is writing about it. Niraj Chokshi. Pardon me. Really sorry if I'm hacking up your name. Really apologize. It says, hope has faded quickly for a handful of Western companies eager to recover planes leased to airlines in Russia, with the authorities there intent on keeping foreign registered aircraft within the country and President Vladimir V. Putin. Wow, they put the middle initial in there. You know that dad's upset. Openly discussing nationalizing the assets of foreign businesses. You might as well. I mean, if he does it, then it's all going to go to the oligarchs. That is basically the status quo of discussion about what's happening here. From McDonald's to anything of value, it's all going to be parsed out. Even going so much as impacting the trademarks within Russia. So we'll see what happens. It says, as of Thursday, there are 523 aircraft leased to Russian carriers by companies outside the country, according to IBA. It's astonishing. The transfer of wealth that's going to take place by nationalizing it and then privatizing it. It's not going to remain a national good. Are you kidding me? That's not how things operate. We shall see what happens in the coming weeks. The next article is U.S. to send arms to Ukraine as Russia intensifies campaign of destruction. A defiant mayor of a captured city was kidnapped by Russian troops, Ukrainian authorities say, an act that prompted hundreds to protest. Only hundreds. Well, this article is over at the New York Times, and and let me, I keep forgetting to copy and paste it into the chat. This doesn't impact you in the on the podcast, although yesterday there was a technical glitch and I lost my links, but you can still do searches based on what I say in the podcast. Well, this is a New York Times article written by Mark Santora and Michael Schwartz and Michael Levinson. It has a neat picture. It kind of is representative of what's going on. It says smoke rising over Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, early Saturday morning after a night of heavy Russian bombardment. Somewhat representative of what's going on. It's unfortunate that a picture like this even has to be taken. But you have to document what's going on. And the world needs to know. So, yeah, a mayor of a city in Ukraine was abducted, and it's so overt. It's not like invaders are barging into your country and you capture them. They came in and are using this person as a playing piece. It's the antithesis of who I am as a human being. I guess I would make it a horrible general, because although I can see it for the value that it is, right? This action, I can't imagine saying, let's go abduct somebody so that we can use them as a pawn, as leverage. It's sociopathic. So it's just weird. So anyway, go over to New York Times and read the rest of this article. It just says Russian forces stepped up their campaign of bombardments aimed at devastating Ukraine cities and towns on Saturday, with the White House announced that it's sending an additional $200 million in arms and equipment to help Ukraine defying Moscow. I still think that we should send defense forces in to protect this from being overrun, protect Ukraine from being overrun. But here we are. You know that Russia is trying to reclaim superpower status and has the money, but not necessarily the might, without using some really horrific weapons. But let's hope it doesn't come down to that. The next article is in the Stock Marketeers channel. It is outside the box. Inflation is surging at a 40-year high, but where higher prices are coming from might surprise you. And this article is over on MarketWatch. It actually was first published on March 10th and updated on March 12th. It's an article by Brian Bethune. And it says the main culprit is the supply, not the demand side. Now, this arguably is the repercussions of COVID-19 and the impact, long-term impact of the supply chain basically breaking down due to the many illnesses. And it basically hobbled industry. Well, I agree. I understand that, yes, it hobbled industry. But as I've said in previous episodes, there have been a multitude of articles that have been written and messaging from state governments saying that, oh, there's no problem. It's all under control. We're not being impacted by supply chain. But then there's always the back channel discussions, which are exactly that. China is still hobbled. Various other countries are hobbled by the impact of COVID. And it's not necessarily under control. Well, if this is the ramification of it, I still don't buy it, because we haven't been able to obtain goods and services at the level that we were getting them before. So this is nothing more, to me, in my estimation, my evaluation of the information that I've consumed. This is nothing more than profit seeking. This is trying to recover the losses, arguably the losses that consumers didn't spend on getting the goods and services that they wanted for the last 2 years. Well, now all of that, but there are record profits from companies, right? Many companies that are still supplying the goods and services that everybody needs, at least in the United States. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but there are companies, many companies, that are record profits. Yet now we have inflation because it's the companies that are raising the prices, trying to reap the rewards of a pandemic where the costs have already been borne financially and physically and across the society of whatever given country you are in. We've all already bared the burden. The problem is now ramping it back up, get it going again so that people can consume. It's not that the supply isn't there, it's there. It isn't that there isn't enough production. Oh, it's there. Nothing was ever torn up. Nothing was ever thrown away. It was literally paused. Now put the people back in or automate, whatever it takes. But this is profiteering off of 2.5 years, well, roughly 2.5 years of pandemic. I think that it's unethical, and I am entirely on the side of capitalism. I believe in its motivation to innovate, solve problems, provide services, provide goods, charge for the services and goods. But you're also a member of society, so why screw everybody over who can't meet a certain level, even if you are making money at a lower level? What? And it's all context driven. Okay, I'm not saying across the board. I'm saying that there are many products and services that don't need to be priced so high. And then when you get right down to it, you're talking about source materials, resources, the core components that make up products. Those prices are being raised up to a level where it's impacting the rest of the production line. So everything is costing more, and that's how you end up with inflation. But it isn't just the end product. It's everybody seeing, oh, look, money to be had. Not the value of the product or the service, but money to be had. There's no social good here. There's no helping society. It's get mine, screw you. The next article is in the Daily News Show. That's this. Elections official in Michigan charged with ballot tampering. Authorities allege she purposely broke a seal on a ballot container. I haven't clicked this link. It's from ABC News. And it says a former township clerk and current county election supervisor in Michigan has been charged with ballot tampering in the August 2020 primary election. So August 2020, we're just now getting to it. I don't know when it was first disclosed, but it says Kathy Funk is also charged with misconduct in office. The Michigan Attorney General's office said late Friday both charges are felonies punishable by up to 5 years in prison upon conviction. Funk faces arraignment in Genesee County's 67th district court. I don't think it discloses any other information. So it says here, Funk oversaw the 2020 election in the township about 70 miles northwest of Detroit. She was seeking re-election as clerk and won with roughly 2,700 votes compared to 2,600 for challenger Mania Triplett. It says that she ran as a Democrat. Funk later resigned as Flint Township clerk to take Genesee County's election supervisor's job. Interesting. So, good. Yeah, nobody should be tampering with any of the election information. You try to impugn the integrity of the election. Did I post that in the chat? Really sorry if I didn't. No, I did not. So, anybody that impugns the integrity of the election by their own action and not by the actual integrity of the election should be charged. This next article is in the Daily News Show. That's this again. 82% of U.S. voters believe inflation is fueled by corporations jacking up prices, quote unquote. It says a new survey shows that voters, quote, want elected officials to challenge corporate greed to lower prices, according to one advocate. So, this is a commondreams.org article written by Jake Johnson. And it says, on the heels of fresh data showing that the U.S. inflation rate jumped to a new 40-year high last month, a new survey found that more than 80% of American voters believe costs are rising in part because big corporations are jacking up prices while raking in record profits. And there's a link that actually takes you to information about these record profits. That's pretty much me. I think that those that have the means of supply are raising the costs so that they can generate greater revenue to recover the losses that were gathered or generated over the last 2 years through no fault but nature. And it's akin to taking the price of water and without any rhyme or reason, you can't just start charging $15 for a bottle of water. If you're the source provider, it ends up harming society as a whole. Is that irrational to some people that I say something like that? Yeah, I'm sure some people think that it's naive or just not logical or there's a bunch of different terms I'm sure that somebody's going to throw at me once they hear this. But at some point, we're all in this ball together and we're all witnessing what's going on. We're all being impacted by it. But there are an inordinate number of people that are not capable of weathering the level of inflation that's coming. And if it's born simply because of profit seeking, and not the value of the product itself. And I understand if you've got a superior product or a superior service, charge for it. That's fine. But this is inflation across the board. This isn't just one product. Well, what is the source of it? I mean, you have to keep following it back. From the beginning, you have to follow it back. And you end up looking at suppliers of raw materials raising their prices up, and then again in line, every single person, every single entity raises their prices because everybody else in the lower chain of this process, supply chain, raises their prices. Well, all of this price raising is why there is inflation. Nothing else has changed. There isn't suddenly a dramatic decline in the amount of resources on the planet. Although there might be finite resources, we would hear about the very specific finite increase, right, in price. Because lithium is very hard to get and it's only in regions that are currently under siege by conflict. That's why batteries are increasing in cost, for instance. That may or may not actually be true. But a lot of places that have lithium actually are in regions of turmoil. Anyway, my point is there is no way that across the board suddenly prices start rising through the roof um, without it being profit seeking under kind of, it's just so ambiguous right now. What is the cause of 2022's inflation spike? It's not the president. Well, go over to this commondreams.org article and read it. It says new survey data shows that voters want elected officials to challenge corporate greed to lower prices. Yeah, well, federal government contracting has its own concerns, its own issues about prices being too high for the value that's received. It says released Friday by the advocacy group Fight Corporate Monopolies, the poll showed that 82% of registered U.S. voters blame big companies for at least some of the recent inflation spike and want elected officials to take on powerful CEOs and rein in corporate greed to lower prices. Well, people are making a ton of money as CEO, all based on stakeholder valuation, that stock price increasing. This next article is over in Smack Talk. I just have to move on. I'll get mired in this conversation with just me because nobody else is really ranting back at me with a counterpoint. I'd love to hear some counterpoints. This is a tech article, Satoshi Type-C aluminum monitor stand hub review. I actually clicked on this because I am looking for a monitor stand because right now I use kind of an aftermarket. I use aftermarket monitor stands to raise my monitors up a certain level. But I need more ports. Always need more ports. And I'm starting to question one of my USB hubs. I don't think that it's legit. I think it's a knockoff because I'm getting some weird power surge problems. Anyway, overshare. The this particular aluminum monitor stand seems to go with the Apple product line because it's aluminum and it has that same industrial design. And this is what it looks like. So this is an article over at appleinsider.com, and it's written by Amber Neely, and it is basically a monitor stand. It has a little bit of dust on it or something. I'm not sure. But it has this cool industrial look with some ports, and I kind of dig it. And it raises things up a little bit so I can put things underneath it. I don't have to really mess with my monitor too much because it only raises it up a few inches. But it has a hub on it, and then I can add some more things. Anything, adding more ports to your computer is always good. It says, so the article actually has a little paragraph in it that says a good monitor riser is a worthwhile addition to any desk, especially if you suffer from aches and pains from an improperly positioned monitor. Those ergonomics really do play a big role. Do yourself a favor, invest in a quality chair. I use an Aran chair, and it has changed from what I used before. Was a gaming chair, and before that, and a quote unquote inexpensive office chair, which was still several $100s. Both the gaming chair and the office chair failed pretty darn quickly, even though you spend hundreds of dollars on them. This Aran chair is much more expensive, but you can actually get a heck of a deal in aftermarket providers. So you can buy it what amounts to a used Aran online, and believe me, you won't go wrong. Just check it out. Go and do a look for Aran aftermarket or used Aran chairs. So many businesses buy them and then either close down or sell them in bulk and get something new. All kinds of stuff. But again, I diverge from what the real topic is, and that's this stand. So I dig the stand. Some people will just use like a monitor arm and do that kind of a thing. I actually use an aftermarket arm that has a stand, and so I could take that whole contraption and put it on this and add some ports. Pretty neat. So we're going to end up talking about Russia again, really. I'm not sorry so much as just brace yourself, because the news is going to kind of maintain this steady pace for a while, because Russia is impacting quite a bit, a pretty broad sector of topics. So this is in the Smack Talk channel again, and it's because it's going to impact Apple and Google. Russian agents threatened Apple and Google employees over protest vote apps. So Russia attempts to manage the activities of tech giants before the Ukraine invasion involved more clandestine maneuvers, including threats to Apple and Google employees to remove apps. The pressure of the tech giants against Russia during the invasion of Ukraine has already led to retaliation by the Russian government in various ways. You know, some of these ways you would think nobody would go to this degree, right? But literally threatening the people, the occupant of the International Space Station, and threatening to not allow anybody to go up and get them. There are people in the ISS right now, and all they're doing is scientific research that will benefit the world, and they get dragged into this BS. However, in a Saturday report about the country's activities to manage the tech industry, it seems Russia has used old school threats to get its way. And so this is an Apple Insider article written by Malcolm Owen. Pretty neat picture. And let's see here. Executives for Apple and Google located in Moscow were threatened in person in September concerning an app that the Russian President Vladimir Putin disliked, reports the Washington Post. Agents showed up at the homes of the respective executives with a threat to remove the app within 24 hours or face prison. Because nothing says you have an open... Well, yeah, that you have open discourse regarding your country, like shutting down conversation like that. Wow. The intimidation tactics worked, as the app was pulled from Google Play and the App Store within hours. The app in question intended to help people register protest votes against Putin. Yeah. Yeah, that's about as far as I can go with that. There's nothing really that a logical person would need to hear to just kind of shake your head and walk away. This next article is in the Mobile channel. As NFTs grow in popularity, some collectors are striking it rich. NFTs are making some collectors and artists rich, but success in this high-risk marketplace is more art than science. I'm not sure about how risky it is, but let's check out this link. And it says here, this is a New York Times article, and it's written by Allison Kruger, and it has somebody that's sitting in a VR headset and sitting in a chair, actually, but wearing a VR headset. And it looks like they're surrounded by a couple of kids, but there are quite a few exchanges going on right now where people are making some serious money. I don't know really why or where it's all coming from. He says he's now saved enough that his children will have the freedom to choose what they want to do with their lives. That's a statement from Alex Lugo, who's 29. He used to drive trucks to support his wife and children, and now because of the NFTs, he's been able to just save enough to apparently not worry about it. So late on Friday last spring, Izzy Pollock, decided to buy 2 Bored Ape NFTs, which, as a reminder for for the many people thinking, yeah, but I still don't know what an NFT is, means he bought unique digital images, in this case of apes. So that's a direct quote from this article. So an NFT is a thing called a non-fungible token. It basically is a digital representation of a piece of art. It says that you own that art. It could be anything, though, really. It could be real world art, and the NFT is a representation of you owning that real world. It can apply to anything, really. That said, there are things that are selling as NFTs for millions of dollars, and like Justin Bieber bought something for, I think it was $4 million. And it apparently was lower ranked in quality than somebody else's. And there was a glitch that made this other one, more expensive NFT, basically be sold for a penny. And that's all being pursued in another forum. But these NFTs are wild, because you would think that having 10,000 NFTs known as Bored Ape Yacht Club wouldn't be worth valuation to that degree, but they are. And it says Mr. Pollock, 29, who bought 3 more a few months later of these other NFTs of Bored Ape, obtained these from a collection of 10,000 NFTs known as Bored Ape Yacht Club. Some of the apes are wearing gold jackets or animal print tunics. Others are smoking cigars or smiling widely. And they're all evaluated. They're rated by people as to what their value is. And then people buy and sell them. And this is one of those things where I didn't miss the boat. I don't get it, because this is kind of the epitome of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. If you get in early enough and you buy a whole swath of stuff at a fraction of a price, a fraction of a penny or $5 or whatever, for whatever reason, it all goes up. In many ways, all it takes is something to be appealing, and suddenly it's of great value. But it's an interesting article, all the same. I've looked at it. I don't see why certain things like this go through the roof in terms of valuation. But go over to that link and check out more about it. You can become pretty rich. All you have to do is buy and sell or start your own NFT. It's really easy. Just do a search for how to make an NFT account or how to publish an NFT. You can do a search of different terms, and you'll find a guide on how to get your own NFT published so that you can trade it on the trading platform. So this next article is in the Stock Marketeers channel, and it says, where should I retire? And we're an outdoorsy family looking for a funky town where we can eventually retire. Where should we go? And it says, we like to be outside year-round, and communities heavy on hiking, rock climbing, and skiing tend to be funky towns. The house budget is $500,000 to $600,000, and this is for their retirement, right? So this is one of those articles for MarketWatch, and so it was first published on March 4th and has since been updated several times, actually, including March 12th, which is today. This article is by Sylvia Ascarelli. Did I say who that last article was? Yeah. Basically, it's a letter to Dear MarketWatch. Where does a late 40s outdoorsy family with quirky kids move to with a long-term goal of retiring there? And they have a budget of $500,000. So what happened was the author did some research, and they actually end up kind of doing a deeper dive, and they don't just say, go here. They offer up a few, like New Paltz, New York, and they go into detail about it, and Kalispell, Montana, and they again go into detail, or Minocqua, I guess it's pronounced, Wisconsin. And again, they go into detail about it. So if you are interested in the same kind of environment, the same type of envelope for your retirement, you might be interested in this article. So go over there and take a look at it. It says the area this last one in Wisconsin, it says the area draws plenty of weekend homeowners. The median list price for a home was $350,000 in January 2022, which is, depending on the sector, a drop in the bucket. So maybe I'll be retiring there. Outdoorsy doesn't really match me. I like hanging out outside, having a drink and enjoying a fire pit, but I'm not going to be climbing any mountains when I retire. The next article is over in Stock Marketeers, and it's outside the box is the section that the article is in, and it says, thinking about an electric car and e-bike may make more sense and save you more money. You can haul kids, building supplies, even a Christmas tree. And they're more fun than an EV. Well, I'm going to veto that claim, but okay. This is a MarketWatch article. It's written by Megan Ramey, and it just has a picture of what might be a mom. I'm not sure. Oh, it is. Transporting a Christmas tree in an electric cargo bike is a Ramey family tradition. So this must be the Ramey family bike. And it has at least one Christmas tree in it. Well, that's really fine. But if you're looking for an EV, you're not looking for a bike. But electric bikes are pretty awesome. And there are some where you can actually pedal the bike and charge the battery, and it's augmented by the electric aspect of the bike. So you can actually pedal, and it is faster than a normal bike because it's power assisted electric vehicle. So it's pretty neat. But some of them are really expensive. And it says here the current palette of e-bikes ranges from roughly $1,100 for the cheapest e-bikes that are not pure junk, to $5,000 for well-made workhorse cargo e-bikes, to $10,000 for the top-of-the-line cargo e-bikes with all of the accessories. Still a fraction of a high-end electric vehicle. Well, I can tell you that unless you are in an area of whatever country you're considering this in, where there is no rain, snow, or any other wild weather, this here says it's not all or nothing position. This is how Mary Puszczowski, I'm probably horribly butchering that name, a mom in Madison, Wisconsin, puts it. The electric cargo bike has replaced all our trips under 5 miles. We still use the car for trips to grandma's house 90 miles away, or on days when it's super cold. Yeah, well, super cold, raining, super hot. There's all kinds of reasons. Yeah. Plus, I'm not going to be carrying around a sheet of drywall on my e-bike. That's a little bit too much. Okay, so go and check out this article. You'll like it. Gives you another angle at electric bikes from the perspective of somebody who's using it regularly. This is another article about tech. The word in tech, Apple chips are on the table. That's the title of the article. And it says Apple's dramatic introduction to the M1 Ultra and a shape of Apple's silicon strategy is clear. So this is an article for The Verge written by Shane Gartenberg. And if you've not watched the presentation of That was on Tuesday, I think it was. You should go and watch the last Apple presentation where they introduced the M1 Ultra and the Mac Studio, which is just a beast of a machine. When it's max, when all of the options are maxed out, it's $8,000. And it says the first crucial takeaway is that Apple is now a force to be reckoned with when it comes to chips, if it wasn't already. That's in brackets. That's a quote from the article. The incredibly positive reception of the first wave of M1 computers, along with a similar success of M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros, established the company's bona fides or bona fides. And I think the M1 Ultra is just a massive step for those who are interested in doing either power computing or high level graphics, audio merged together. Both of them I don't think will even touch the utilization of the M1 Ultra. You're going to have to push this thing hard, and I'd really like to see what somebody does with it. It'll be really interesting. It says Apple fired shots at Intel's top-tier processor, the Core i9-12900K, claiming a 90% improvement from its M1 Ultra in multi-threaded performance. 90% improvement at the same power level, and the ability to match Intel's best numbers while using 100 watts less power. And the company took a victory lap over NVIDIA's RTX 3090 GPU, which Apple claims to beat out performance while drawing 200 watts less power. So I would love to get this Mac Studio with the M1 Ultra. It would be awesome. I'd probably be able to get rid of a couple of PCs. But it's because the M1 Max, apparently, as they say in the presentation, actually has a component side where you can merge the two M1 Max chips together to form an M1 Ultra. Obviously, it's not something you can just buy and slap on, but they revealed that the M1 Max has a hidden secret, which is that it's actually an M1 Ultra split in half. So it's pretty neat, and I really dig the presentation of the chip. So go and check it out over at The Verge. They'll go into greater detail. And the next article is the Daily News Show. Nurses celebrate decision blocking Insidious Texas probes into parents of trans kids, criminalizing parents for supporting their children, whether they are trans or CIS, gay or straight, is a heinous breach of any sense of ethics. But the idea of doing that, let me click the link here. It's a Common Dreams article, commondreams.org, written by Jake Johnson. An interesting thing about this is that the people who are doing this insidious policy that provokes a procedure, right? It tells government to go after these parents who are basically supporting their kids and not necessarily, indoctrinating them or guiding them to be this way as if it's a choice. Those very same people who want this legislation in place to investigate parents of trans kids, they're the exact same people who are saying, government, get out of my life. Yet it doesn't apply to what they are doing. They want government to investigate people, but they want it to investigate them, not me. They want to investigate them. And it's the stereotypical us versus them tribal battle instead of seeing everybody for being a human being. I said it in my last episode. I'll say it again in future episodes. Let people be who they are. And if it means you having to go, oh, okay, you're a human being, then maybe you need to grow past whatever blinders you have on, whatever hangups you have, whatever sociopathy you have. Everybody is a human being here. Everybody, you just, it's really weird because there isn't any policy oppressing somebody else, right? In this equation, there's no policy oppressing the people who want this legislation. It's literally non-existent. There isn't anything saying, hey, you can't talk about parents of trans kids. You can talk about parents of trans kids all you want. But what you should not be able to do is leverage government to investigate them. It's psychotic. Because then you have to allow for the fact that that same government can be pointed in another direction, and you end up, eye for an eye kind of a thing. Everybody's blind. It's so weird that people can't just let other people be. These are educated decisions. They're not just jumping into it blindly, and they're discussing things. And then in Florida, you can't even talk about it. You can't say gay. Don't say gay. It's so, again, it's an element of society. It's an element of being a human being. Yet they'll say, if you don't like it, get out of America, that kind of thing. Maddening. This next article is in the Daily News Show. I have to move on. Again, I have to move on. Ideology grounded in facts, not blind ideology, is what we must strive for. Yes. This is another commondreams.org article. No, I don't have a whole bunch of articles from just certain places. I have close to 200 sources. Not all of them are active all the time. But in this case, I have a few that come from the same place. This is ideology grounded in facts, not blind ideology, is what we must strive for. It's an article on commondreams.org, written by Ted Glick. And, I agree. This advice from Bertrand Russell, one of the 20th century's most prominent progressive intellectuals toward the end of his long life, is very sound. It says, in 1959, the BBC asked Bertrand Russell, public intellectual, historian, social critic, political activist, and Nobel laureate, what advice he would give future generations. And he answered, when you are studying any matter or considering any philosophy, ask yourself only what are the facts and what is the truth the facts bear out. Never let yourself be diverted either by what you wish to believe or by what you think would have beneficial social effects if it were believed, but look only and solely at the facts. And it's the citation is Humankind, A Hopeful History by Roger Bregman, page 253. It really comes down to, particularly in online life in this digital era. So this was back in 1959. It really comes down to the amount of information that's available, and there's a whole lot of belief in something. And while I, as a human being, I have certain beliefs. I think that society would be better. I believe society would be better if everybody just saw everybody else as a human being and didn't pen them in as either being a monster or that kind of person, or whatever category you choose to put somebody in to cope with whatever issue is that's bothering you. Um, it's we have those biases, and so we have to pay attention to them. But other than that, um, everybody's the same. We have to cope with it, and we have to figure out how to deal with these issues. But some people will willingly ignore um, the outright bias that's influencing you, um, from racism to sexism, misogyny. Right? Um, you could be well off and look down on everybody who doesn't have the money that you have, yet you didn't actually earn it. You inherited it, and yet it's yours. And it goes on. There's more and more stuff. I'm sure I'm triggering all kinds of people who might stumble across this video, or the podcast or whatever. Go read this article. Change your perspective. If you don't already think like this, reading that article might do you some good, or at least change your perspective. Maybe not good. This next article is in the Mobile Channel. We want to be the UPS or FedEx of the moon, a startup's big moonshot. A California startup is joining much bigger players in the drive to explore settlement on the moon, as plans by NASA to send astronauts back there eats up the commercial lunar market. Instantly, when I saw this is an article on phys.org by Samantha Masunaga from Los Angeles Times. Aerospace firm Venturi Astrolab Incorporated, better known as Astrolab, based in Hawthorne, California, is building an all-purpose truck that is intended to construct lunar infrastructure and also ferry astronauts around, enabling work that would make long-term settlement in the moon possible. And that's pretty much the gist of this. But instantly, when I saw this, we want to be the UPS or FedEx of the moon. Instantly, I said, so you want to hurl my package onto my patio and mark it as being delivered, yet deliver it the next day, or you want to throw it on Mars and tell me that you delivered it to the moon? Obviously, that's not going to make me any friends at UPS or FedEx, but I thought it was funny. Har har. I'm still chuckling inside. You may not be, but I am. The next article is in the Mobile Channel, and it says, "My Cousin Vinnie at 30, an unlikely Oscar winner." Much like Vinnie in the South, the film was a fish out of water at the Academy Awards, but the comedy endures thanks to a generous Joe Pesci and a fiery Marissa Tomei. So if you've never watched this, My Cousin Vinnie, it is an awesome movie. If you are involved in any way with the legal field, you'll get a chuckle out of it. And it all kind of becomes, it gets stuck in your brain, and will live with you for 30 more years if you've never watched it. And if you have watched it in the beginning, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hopefully your biological clock has stopped stomping on the deck. Anyway, so this article is over at the New York Times, written by Jason Bailey, and you should go and check it out. I think that it's a great movie, and it deserves more than what it has. I think that it everybody should watch it like once a year at least. One phrase you won't find in any of those reviews is Oscar worthy yet. Vinnie proved just that, landing an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress a full year after its original theatrical release, one of the biggest upsets in Oscar history, and a trophy that would prove both a blessing and a curse for its recipient, Marissa Tomei. Her performance as Mona Lisa Vito the long-suffering fiancé and legal secret weapon of Joe Pesci's title character, was a breakthrough for the Brooklyn-born actress. And both of them did a great job, and everybody else actually did a great job. But I'm going to continue on. I just wanted to raise awareness about My Cousin Vinnie. This next article is over in the continuity report. It says Jane Campion and Guillermo del Toro on why the theatrical experience is still so important. It says, and lucky for us, they're not afraid to share those opinions. And that's exactly what they did last fall for Variety's Directors on Directors issue. So this article is over at variety.com, and it's written by Michael Schneider. And it says, now, in case you missed the conversation between the two Oscar winners, Variety's Awards Circuit podcast gives you another chance. In this Friday edition of the award-winning podcast, we feature the chat as they swap stories about filmmaking in what's already the third decade of the 21st century. Wow. And they have a link on their site, and you can listen to this podcast. Go and check it out. And I'm sure you may or may not agree, but I think that going to a theatrical release, going to a movie theater, going to anything where there is a mass of people changes the energy level, good or bad, right? So I've gone to movies where the movie was just horrible and people walked out of it. And that horrible feeling actually gets exuded out to everybody in the room. You can feel when a horrible movie is playing that people, they don't hide it. It's just a change in the energy. Whereas when it's a good movie, or you go to a football game or your soccer game, the energy level, when everything is positive, everything is great, then it's palpable. So I agree. I really like theatrical releases. I would love to be able to go to movie theaters, but it's just not going to happen anymore. I think that people want the comfort of their home more than they want to go to movie theaters. Now, there might be a whiplash kind of effect after 24 months of COVID, but we will see what the market holds. We'll see if movie theaters pick up where they left off. But I'm going to continue on. But go over to Variety and listen to that podcast, either on the website or just do a search for Variety's Award Circuit podcast. The next article, and it's the last article for the night, is in the continuity report. Aaron Sorkin on J.K. Simmons. There was only one actor I wanted. And this is, if you've never seen J.K. Simmons in any of their movies or TV, just go to IMDb and do a search for J.K. Simmons, and then just start watching anything. Everything that J.K. Simmons does seems to be just immersed in their skill, particularly the last decade. Just an amazing amount of talent. And really, when you listen to him, you get sucked in. He's very charismatic in his roles and seems to be just an all-around nice guy. And he's this is an article, just before I finish my sentence, this is a Variety article written by Tim Gray, and it's titled Aaron Sorkin on J.K. Simmons. There was only one actor I wanted. That said, J.K. Simmons is fit, and I think I'm not sure how old J.K. Simmons is right now. Let me see. I think I thought that he was hedging towards 70, but he's 67. And this guy, he's fit, you should go do a Google search for J.K. Simmons and you'll see pictures of this guy. He looks like he could probably punch through a side of beef. Um, and yeah, I don't know. And he still, when you see him acting, when you see him talking, he comes across as a nice guy. So let's hope that truly he is, because I'd hate to hear something after all these years, that, you know, he's basically Keanu Reeves kind of a guy. It seems like don't hold me to that, because I haven't heard many stories about J.K. Simmons other than being pretty chill about things. And with that, that's the end of today's episode. And I hope that there are a bunch of articles that you think are interesting. There's about 20 of them. And that's it for today. Again, you can go to ohmTown.com and click on that front page. When you first get there, it'll refresh with new articles. But if you are surfing through it and you decide to go back to the front page, just like this, you'll end up with a whole bunch of new articles. And I know that there are some duplicate articles that are happening, and that's because my aggregator is overpowering my server, basically. So I'm going to be upgrading my server so that I don't keep running into this problem. But it's only because I've kind of upped the performance of my aggregator. I just need more data. I want more articles. I want more news. And with that in mind, we're all done for the day, and I appreciate you stopping by. And again, thank you. Feel free to follow me on Twitch. I actually need the follows. I don't normally ask for them, but please follow me on Twitch, and you can follow me on YouTube as well, and the podcast. I try to upload it every day. I'm actually a day behind right now, but thanks again. And again, please follow me on Twitch. Appreciate it. See you soon. Tomorrow, 6 p.m.